is my office, and these are actually this is a full collection of issues that I've done by the year.
For the past 26 years, Dave Meltzer has printed a no-frills weekly journal that pulls back the curtain on a notoriously secret business. Meltzer began watching wrestling in 1969. By age 10, he was publishing a newsletter. In 1986, the Wrestling Observer became Meltzer's full-time job, and a weekly publication. Intrigued wrestlers passed around McMahon's locker rooms, subscribing under their birth names to hide their curiosity. No concrete accounting of Meltzer's prolific output can be made, publishing about 25,000 words per issue. He's conceivably written more than 33 million words, and this is an article from 2013, nearly all of which have been in the service of analyzing an often maligned athletic event. Frank DeFord, 50-year veteran of Sports Illustrated, once labeled Meltzer the most accomplished reporter in sports journalism. Dave Meltzer is I like to call him the Walter Cronkite of pro wrestling. Yeah. But he's also the Roger Ebert of pro wrestling, and there's a reason why those people don't have the same job.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it.
And the whole place starts chanting 5-star match, and then
I was there for this.
Osprey just like starts staring at me. So apparently, everybody said that if I had held up five fingers at that point, that it would have been the biggest pop of the night. But in fact, I didn't do that. There's probably a lot of photos of me. I took like 1 million pictures this weekend. I mean, that's probably an exaggerated number.
It has to be factual no matter what.
Not really 1 million.
The wrestling business has always been a totally closed entity. It's like
look at how young he looks.
School. You don't snitch. You don't tell.
Didn't Vince say in published reports that you were devastated when Hulk Hogan made those statements on Arsenio?
I wasn't devastated.
That was the word used to me. It was.
Well, all right.
I have in my collection probably more pro wrestling tapes than in VHS than probably all but maybe a half a dozen people in the world.
His brother records him like a tour of Dave's house, and they go out to his shed with his thousands of wrestling VHS tapes. Wow. He's like, I got it all right here.
Well, comedian Matt McCarthy has tried to put together a GoFundMe or something to get Meltzer to digitize those tapes, because VHS will like it'll just fade, like it doesn't have a shelf life after a certain amount of years.
I got to ask Dave just questions about his personal life. So if Isaiah, can you play the clip?
I like movies. What's your favorite movie? My favorite movie. That's a real tough one.
You don't have that loaded? You've never been asked that before?
Nobody asked me anything except for wrestling questions and martial arts questions. So, favorite movie, let's just go with the original Rocky. How's that? That's a good one. All right.
Movie about fighting.
Favorite band? Oh, God.
Don't say the Luchagors.
I don't know. You two, maybe?
Okay.
He's has a very interesting fashion sense. And Kath wrote an article for Fanbyte about Dave's style, which
I love this
really
article,
suggest.
by the way.
It's called To Walk. It's called To Walk a Mile in Dave Meltzer's Saucony's.
That title by the use of Saucony's is just
so beautiful. He looks like he's in The Strokes.
Yeah, he's like definite vintage babe in this picture. He's looking good.
I have to say, he's dressed as Brett Davis in 2012.
Yeah, he is.
I believe that's Kevin Owens.
That is Kevin Owens.
That's Kevin Owens?
I want to
He's looking great. Look at that hair.
Yeah, he has like a kind of greaser curl. It's very good.
And he's ripped.
Super ripped.
Like that t-shirt is tight on those bulging biceps.
That's a cool shirt.
He loves a good tuck.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah. Yep.
He's always tucked.
Also,
flash jeans are a trademark for him too.
I know from Wrestling Observer Radio, he said that those jeans are the original from 1983 or whatever.
Yeah.
And he still fits into them. This just shows, we want to say this shows Dave's passion for wrestling news.
It was to build to a match in St. Petersburg, which for God only knows what reason they decided not to promote, but they did put it on a pay-per-view card where Flair won, and so it was kind of like a 1-1 where Fujinami got to win it. Excuse me. to tell me it was IWGP champion, and they didn't want him. They didn't want him.
He can't possibly stop.
No.
No, he can't. I can't
He
take
has
a
to
breath.
fight Ric Flair.
It's like
It's
that
not
scene
gonna-
in the Terminator where like they're shooting at the guy and he keeps like walking. We also have for a counterpoint. Can we play some video of the people that hate Dave Meltzer?
He's entitled to his opinion. Certainly, you pay your money to buy a ticket. You're certainly entitled to your opinion. But when you've never ever not taken a bump or done something physically, but you've never done it to where you now have to rely on what your actions do to be able to feed your family, how do you have the experience to quantify you as an expert? If you broke your leg right today, heaven forbid, would you go to the doctor and tell the doctor how to fix your leg?
Tell him how?
Yeah.
No.
Why not? You're not a fucking doctor.
Such a bad
Those
example.
sheets had a lot of, dud.
Yeah, terrible.
And it was every year it was like match of the year, Abu Zago versus Napo Zano in the Karokian Hall. Like, yeah,
Real
right.
funny.
You fucking saw it when.
Oh no.
Saw it from what? From fucking Oakland.
Good job,
Fuck you.
big sexy.
This is the equivalent of being like climate change. Then why is
San
it
Jose.
snowing?
Is that where he's from?
Near there, right?
Yeah, fuck him. I never liked him, never will. How's your life, buddy? Bet you ain't better than mine.
Oof.
I agree.
Kevin Nash kicks ass. I'm sorry. He's great.
Can't hate on Kevin Nash.
Kevin's had a few wines in this clip.
His singularity as a figure is impressive and incredibly frustrating at the same time. When like something happens in wrestling that needs a greater context, like the speaking out movement that happened this summer, there's no one who's equipped to talk about it because you need to be knowledgeable about wrestling, but also have an understanding of the larger world. And Dave doesn't, but he also is like the one person you have to go to for this stuff because
I will say in Dave's defense there is the tweet that caused a lot of controversy. People were talking about the speaking out movement and how it's making big waves in wrestling, and he was like, well, back in the 90s, a lot of this was people faking it, which like I guess technically that's correct.
He always has to say something like that.
That's only because wrestling's in this weird, like, kayfabe, carny universe, and it's not like that anywhere else. But Dave, as you'll hear on the Wrestling Observer, if you listen to any episode, he will, like, trip himself up for, like, 2 minutes straight, like, trying to get a detail in or, like...
But this is exactly to my point, that he thinks... this is happening. The most important piece of information I could bring to this is more context about wrestling history. And again, like this is not any discredit to his incredible import and knowledge about wrestling. I think the only reason that these things are an issue is because he's the only person like this. There's no one else that you can go to with this kind of stuff. And it's just like, these types of things need different perspectives.
Remember when he made the comment about Billy Kay a couple years ago?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? And then he
but yeah.
Was it? I thought it was Billy Kay.
You gotta get the facts right.
Correct.
Look,
I stand correct.
For Dave, in honor of Dave.
But he spent 40 minutes apologizing in like sounding so sad and feeling so terrible. And there is like nobody else from that generation in wrestling who would ever give a fuck. Like, could you ever imagine Jim Cornette apologizing for like making fun of Kenny Omega's sexuality? It would never happen.
Yeah. No, that is something that like, and I think it's really reflected in his taste in wrestling too, is like, he is surprisingly modern in a lot of ways, given when you think about a 66-year-old man who's been in the wrestling business for most of his life, like he is surprisingly sort of cosmopolitan about a lot of things and sort of flexible in like, he's not a traditionalist like a lot of people from that era of wrestling. And I think that in the same way, he is willing to, try to understand when people are mad at him. He doesn't just go, well, fuck you. And that's the thing is, like, I did want to talk a little bit just about how I feel like he's mishandled some stuff, but, like, I would never say that he is a misogynist or anything. He's just a guy that sometimes puts his foot in his mouth and does a pretty good job of trying to be accountable in the way that a 66-year-old man who spent his entire life in the wrestling business can, which is like going to be unsatisfactory to some people by nature.
The Wrestling Club with Darren and Brett. We've got a show that you'll never forget.